Cherie, you're first up, going to talk about mowing for us. I'll probably turn my camera off too.
Okay, thanks, Tommy. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I'm going to go ahead and get my screen up here. So I'm in the MMS test environment. You can tell that by the gray area. Those that are in maintenance should have an icon on their desktop, or you can also just type in this URL, the MMS UAT, for any employees that you have that you want to have play around in this. This is the playground for MMS. So if you have people that want to practice or anything like that, this is the environment that you want to use to help them through. Maybe they're practicing through watching some videos. This is the platform you want to use. I'm going to go ahead and impersonate a building here, and I'm going to do 7D12. And I went ahead and I've already set up a an assignment. I'm going to go in as Bruce, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to document what it looks like for mowing, as this is kind of our hot and heavy season right now, especially this next week as we enter into 4th of July. We always want our roads to look nice for the traveling public. So I've already built an assignment for this crew, and I'm going to go back to the 20th, and I'm going to keep it to the 25th. And so I've built a mowing assignment. So this is something that you want to have, supervisors, crew leaders build that assignment. So then you can also see what trainings that maybe they're missing or something for any equipment or the activity that they're going to be doing. So I've gone ahead and I've set up on the 20th through the 24th. I have some mowing, and I have 2 different leads. So I have Bruce as a lead on the 20th, and then I have Tina as a lead on the 24th. And so Bruce knows where he started and stopped, but Tina may not recall where they stopped for the 24th when they get ready to document and mark that on the map for, an accurate location. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start off with daily journal. And if someone can mute, we can hear you through the microphone there. I'm going to go ahead and start documenting. So Bruce mode on the 20th, and I'm going to select the 20th, and I have my mowing activity already here because it was assigned. We mowed for 10 hours that day. I'm going to go ahead and click next. And I've already documented my equipment for the day. And I went ahead and I selected the locations already on the map. So you can see that we started off right at our border here, and at our line here. And I've gone all the way through, and I've mowed right here on 54 in Camden County. So I'm going to click done. Didn't have any materials for that day. I'm going to click next. And it goes ahead and because Bruce was the person responsible for documenting performance actuals, I chose yes. So when I choose yes, it goes ahead and puts my performance in there, which you can see the shoulder miles is the unit of measure. With this, keep in mind, it's 1 shoulder mile that we do. Even if we make several passes along the way, along this corridor here, you still only record the 1 shoulder mile. Okay, we don't do multiples or anything like that. We just do the 1, even though we may spend more time out there. I'm going to go ahead and choose next. And now you can see that I have documented for Bruce for the entire day. And I can look down here and I see that Tina's already documented as well. So I'm not going to go to her record and do anything there. So I'm going to click done. And now I'm going to go in as Tina and I'm going to document for Tina. She's actually the lead for the 24th. So we've started on the 24th. We're back to mowing and we're going to pick up where we left off. So I've documented my 10 hours. I click next. I have my equipment that I've used. I'm going to click next. And now what I need to do is find where I left off, where I need to document from where we left off on Thursday. And to do that, we have this box over here that says last 7 days. This is a handy feature that we've added on here that it's been on here for a long time, but maybe you weren't aware of it or don't recall. But now it shows where I mowed on Thursday or up to the last 7 days for myself now as being a different lead and Bruce wasn't the lead, or maybe you have a different crew that's going out there now. I now can make that selection and I can choose my location and then I can go as far as I need to go for the day. Now I can go ahead and choose. I'm going to choose both directions. And now I have documented where I've left off. And because I have that selected, it's showing me now for the next person that documents for mowing, and we're mowing again along 54, they can see then where Tina had left off on the 24th if another crew was to be working in that area. I click done, no materials, click next. Tina now is expected to record the performance actuals for this day. So now it's already input that in there for me, but you can always modify this as well. So if something comes up and you've mowed that area, but maybe you need to change those performance measure, the shoulder miles, you can do so. But it should go ahead and calculate in there just as you did. And now I can click next. So with this, on the shoulder miles here, you can see that I have the performance and Bruce hasn't documented yet. Well, I'm going to go in now as Bruce and I'm going to document for him. I'm going to stop sharing, go in as Bruce now. Oh, helps if I learn to spell right. And now Bruce is not responsible for documenting anything else for the 24th, except for any equipment that he may use, his hours, and that's it. Okay, so he was just in a truck. I'm just going to go ahead and put the documentation in here for it. And so he was in the follow truck. Click save. I'm going to click next. And now I've documented. He does not get the PA indicator on there because he's not the lead. He's not responsible for documenting anything on the performance actuals at all or the materials. So any questions about that at all with how you use that 7 days when we're mowing, when we're doing any activity, asphalt pavement repair, anything like that? Okay, if there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back.
All right, thanks, Sheree. So let's talk for a few minutes about everybody's favorite topic, property damage numbers, or K numbers as they're known out in the field. So we will go ahead and do a little bit of document. And I'm going to show maybe a few tricks that you may or may not know about. Documenting those K numbers, identifying them so you can see it as you're going through the documentation process. So like Sheree, I went ahead and did a little bit of an assigning work and assigned a couple of R227 for guard cables. But I will go ahead and do one more just so you can see. So we'll have 3 on the on our labor page. So we're going to add another activity. That's under other and safety, 227. So right here is one place that you can put that property damage number in. So it'll be there for you already. If you click this property damage box, and then you can type in the K number. So we get a lot of questions about, well, maybe I don't have my K number yet, so I don't know what it is. It's confusing to document, and it can be. But MMS will allow you to put in I call it a temporary property damage number. So it's kind of a placeholder until you get that. So you can name that basically anything you want. I think it's within the 8 characters. So I recommend maybe doing K, and then a lot of times there's a mile marker, and let's say 125. So you can put in this little temporary placeholder, something that you all know at the shed what that is, to hold the place, and it'll become valuable here in a few minutes. So we select next. You can assign equipment if you want to. I'm not going to in this case, and then we'll select our employees. So, and we need to make sure and put somebody as a leader. Okay, so now we've got, they already had a couple assignments, and now they're assigned to this again. So when we go back to the assigning work, we've got 3 separate K numbers that we're working on. So now if we go into daily journal and we go to documenting work, select the date, notice you've got 3 property damage numbers here already. They're laid out with that temporary property damage number that we already put in so that we can know kind of where it's at. So this one's at mile marker 114, mile marker 100, mile marker 125. So now all it is just a matter of dividing up your time however much you worked. So maybe we worked 3 hours on this one. We'll leave that at 4 hours. And so we've got 3 hours left by this here. So now we've got our time divided to that. So when we go to next, now we're documenting equipment for the K number that was at mile marker 114. So let's just choose a pickup here. The ending mileage is the number that for most units the AVL system populates. We're going to leave that alone, but we're going to say for this mile marker 114, we documented, or we used 10 miles. We'll save that, and then we'll go on. We're gonna need to pick a location, so I'll just zoom in here on the map and select something randomly. Of course, this would be your, let's just do a point. This would be your mile marker 114 that you would choose. Okay. We're done with that location. We didn't use any materials. We're just restretching that. Now we're going to the K number at mile marker 125. And let's say we use that same pickup. Okay, we're leaving this number, this ending mileage, the same because that's what the ending mileage is for the day. And then in the mileage, we're going to put in, we use 15 miles for that K number and save it. Go to the next. Same thing. We need to go in here and pick us out a point that we worked. So this would be the mile marker 125 location. Done with it. We didn't use any materials. Now we're documenting for mile marker 100 using the same pickup. So we'll select this. Notice it's given us the little message here, hey, we've already documented for that equipment. That's fine. We use that same equipment in multiple places and we need to divide it up. So for this one, I don't know, we used 60 miles. I don't know what. We click that and we save it. Go to next. We'll select our location. So this is the location for mile marker 100. Done with that, we didn't use any materials. Now we're to our summary page. And you'll notice the ending mileage is this. You got 15 miles for that one. Open up the next one, the 114. Your ending mileage is still the same and you've got 10 miles. So at the end of the day, what that's going to do is that's going to send this ending mileage, the 101,817, to faster into those tables over there. And it's going to send this usage to SAM2 for that specific location and for that K number. That the job number will be that K number. Okay, so we're going to go, let's go look at review and submit and see what that looks like. Select today. So when we come in here, it's all collapsed for the most part whenever we first get here. But let's go ahead and if we click this expand all labor, that's going to break that entire activity out. And you can see that for K100, you got 4 hours with this unit documented to it. 114 is 3 hours. 125 is 3 hours. And now if we want to look at the equipment, we can expand this. That's our total. But if we want to expand all equipment, it's going to show you the breakout for each K number for the amount of mileage. Now, if we want to change that, maybe this should have been 50, because on these K numbers, it's critical that whatever documentation that you turn in, whatever your process is for your district, whatever documentation that you turn in to safety management, the mileage on that needs to match the mileage in here. The hours that you worked on that and all the specific employees needs to match exactly to the employees here. So let's say this should have been 50. It got turned in as 50 instead of 60. So to change that, we'll go back to this summary page. I didn't look to see what K number it was, so we'll look down here until we find the 60. It happened to be this K100. We'll click on the equipment, go back to that piece of equipment. The only thing we need to do is change this right here and make this 50. Confirm it, save it. Not changing the location, not changing. So we go back, and now we've got 50 miles. Back to review and submit, and it's going to be updated to 50 miles. There's your 50. So it's very important that the supervisor, crew leader, whoever's going through and verifying all this information, whatever documentation you turn in needs to match in here. Any questions about K numbers?
Okay, I have a few things to add with this. These are some things that I do see or I get questions about. So you go as a supervisor, crew leader, you go to submit this, and an error comes back and it says, hey, this K number is not, it won't submit to TRS because the K number is not right. Couple of things that you want to definitely look at if that K number is not going to TRS. One of the first things that I look at is I look at that K number that has been given to you by a safety management group, and I look to see, did we accidentally or the employee accidentally type in an O versus a 0? We do not have any O's in our numbers. It is Usually that an O has been placed instead of a 0. So take a look at that and see if that's the issue. The other thing that I do want to share my screen real quick is to show you that if you maybe the K number is not in TRS quite yet, it hasn't been activated yet. The way to find that out is that, let me go out here, is that if you go out to the MoDOT SharePoint site and you go to financial services, the division of financial services, you'll see that it says find request SAM2 number. When it is in here, you want to go to maintenance job search. When you come to this page, you can type in that K number right here. And when you do, it will bring up whether it's available in there. If it's not, so you can even type in any additional information that maybe you know. You can type in a description, anything like that. You can find information. So say that I want to look at K24 and that it's 5670. I click search or submit. No records found. When that comes up, you know that the number that you typed in is not active yet in TRS. Check it the next morning. If it is that you need it right then and you just want to follow up, get a hold of the safety management group to see have they activated that yet in SAM2. Okay. So if I look at K24, I can just type in K24. I can click submit. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm misleading you here. It's the job number box. So now we can run through here and we can see that K24 and any of these are already set up. Okay. So I apologize for misleading you. It is in the job number field. So if we do K24 and we do A50, then you can look that up and see whether it's available yet or not. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Those are just some tips, and feel free to give the help desk a call and we'll be happy to help you search for that number to make sure. Any questions about how to find whether a K number is active or not? And really, you can check submit first, and if it doesn't submit and you get the message, that's when you need to probably go to that area. Okay. Tommy?
Thanks, Sheree. One other thing I want to review real quickly here. Let me share again. So we're getting a lot of questions on the alerts and what do these alerts mean? When do I get an alert? So I want to review those real quickly. There's actually 4 different ways that you can get an alert. So we have these training requirements set up in the admin page, which causes that little triangle to activate. And there's actually 4 different ways: based on an activity, based on the assigned role, based on the fleet class, and based on the job title. So depending on what you're doing, what you've been assigned, activates whether a training is required. So for example, somebody in financial services, their title doesn't require them to have loader training. So whatever they're doing, their title doesn't require that. But if they operate a loader, now they've been assigned a loader, they're going to get that based on that fleet class, right? So that will give them a warning. Same thing with a role or activity. Financial services is not required maybe to have advanced flagger training, but if they're assigned a role to be in charge of a work zone or something like that, then they're going to get the warning that says, hey, they need this training. So just so you know, there's 4 different ways that you get those warnings. So you may be fine being assigned to a pool paving operation. You may be fine being assigned to a flagger, but when you get signed a motor grader, now you're going to get this warning. So that's the way those warnings come up. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. Any questions about that we can answer? All right, quiet group. Tommy, back to you.
All right, thanks, Randall. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. So I want to take a minute and I want to talk about some of the links that we have here in the Go banner. These links really come from requests from you guys that says, man, I wish you would put us a link for the MoDOT SharePoint in MMS. It's kind of hard to find, and we had to go out and look around 2 or 3 different places to get to the MoDOT SharePoint. So that's what we did. And then, we got some questions. Randall and I were actually down in the Southeast District visiting a couple buildings saying, man, I wish we had access to overtime choice in MMS. And we're like, well, we do. And so I'm impersonally just a senior maintenance worker. And so when we get into ladder license and leave really was about you guys. This is something that was original part of the MMS phase 2 project. So after we built the first piece with documenting and results and all of those things, one of the second pieces of the big MMS total project was ladder license and leave. This is something that's been on the original request list from the beginning. Safety management put this on the shelf for a while as Director McKenna asked us to work with safety and emergency management to build a safety module within MMS. But we've got that done, and then we return back to this. But license, leave balances, leave calendar, all that stuff is about you guys, and it's to give you as an employee your information that you need. If you're a supervisor, it gives you your information as well as the people that report to you information. So we try to do as much as we can in here to give you that stuff. So the second link is here's a link to the HR policy manual. And for supervisors, assistant supervisors, this is a quick way. If you have a policy question, you don't have to go out to the main SharePoint site, get to HR and go through that. There's a link for you right here. And then we'll go further into leave balances here. You'll see that we have links up in the banner for overtime choice, MoDOT eStub, and Missouri State Employee Self-Service. So there's a lot of things that you can do right here from MMS on these page. You can also submit a leave request right here as you're looking at your leave balances and stuff. You can see over here your overtime choice for this particular person. They're in cash, and they've been in cash since January 14th, 2018. All they need to do is change it, and that's just a link that opens up the overtime choice application. You can make your change. So what we found in some of our visits is these links are not necessarily standing out because they're not realizing that the link is right here for you to use. So we're thinking about maybe doing something more along the lines of this leave request button. And so this is where I wanted somebody to answer my question or give me some feedback. So pop quiz time is if we took and put all these links under an employee resources big button like the leave request is, would you guys find that more helpful, more noticeable? Or is everybody on here go, I know what those are and I use it all the time and it's not a big deal to me? So I'd really like to hear from someone attending today. Are you aware of these links? Are you using them? You had no idea? Yeah, man, a big button with you could put and have all these different links in here, not just HR policy on one page, MoDOT SharePoint on another page. If we could figure out a way to put them all on a links page, I just click the big employee resource button. So now we're going to have awkward silence so we get some answers.
I'll put a poll out there to make it easier on them. How about that? Yeah.
But come on, somebody talk. What do you guys, do you guys use it? Do you know they're there? It's not applicable to you?
I've looked at my
Somebody's
leave.
brave enough.
I've looked at my leave, but I hadn't used any of that. But I think I think it's good. I think you've done a good job.
Do you know it's there? I mean, you just haven't had a
Well, I do
need to
now.
do
I
it.
hadn't really. I'd looked at my leave, but I hadn't really looked at all that other stuff till
Okay.
when you said that today. Just to be honest, but
Okay.
yeah, looks good.
Does the leave request button up there, does that stand out to you better? You realize, oh, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Okay.
Just personally, I usually don't do it that way. I just ask my boss, and like all the guys here, they just usually ask me, and we don't usually do the leave request, but it's nice to have there.
So
So
a couple, go ahead, Sheree.
I was just going to say, another thought is that, like Tommy was mentioning, would it be helpful to have a resource uh, button or icon even on the front that would supply a lot of this stuff that then would link you to the locations of where the forms are, where to take care of these kinds of items instead of trying to fish around for it, or to even do, I think a lot of people don't realize that you can actually do a search on SharePoint as well. But if it was a little easier to find by having it all where you click the resources, and then when you click those resources, everything's listed.
So I also want to put in a couple of knowledge points about leave. So there's some benefits to using leave. The leave module itself, if you guys enter the leave request, it automatically moves that over and fills it in and assigning work for you. And then again, it'll push to documenting work, but that prevents you from having to do that. It also populates the supervisor's calendars. So you put in your leave request, as soon as it gets approved, it'll show up on their Outlook calendar. And that is another request that came out of this. So lots of folks, they really enjoy the leave module, and it gets a lot of use. So if you're not using it, I encourage you guys to get a hold of Cherie or one of us and just have her show you, um, kind of how it works, and that way you can kind of see the benefits of it too, because I think it's worthwhile. There was a question, I think Courtney, I think it was your name that flashed on.
The question I have in regards to it is when the employee goes in to select his leave, he's requesting, say, 3 hours off. But in an MMS, when you go into there, it's making him, or it comes up showing that the whole day. Is
Right.
there a fix in place for that? Because it's been that way, since it came out, and they're constantly messing things up because they have to go in there and change it, and they're getting confused on how to do it.
Yeah, great question. So the leave module was really designed for full day leave. It wasn't designed to manage, I'm taking a couple hours flex, or I've got a doctor's appointment, my kid's got a doctor's appointment. It just wasn't set up that way. And there was a lot of thought processes put there into that, but it was really designed to be full day leave. That way it could transfer over to your assigning work and then ultimately on to documenting work. So I don't think we'll be changing it just because that was not what the intent of this module was.
And
And
another
Randall,
technical,
go
another
ahead.
technical reason for that is because it doesn't know what time of the day you're taking those 3 hours off. So if you take off the first 3 hours and you were supposed to get, maybe you were supposed to get some RDIF or something like that, the system doesn't know when you're taking off. So if you're only doing partial days, like Tommy's talking about, there's really no benefit for the employee to do it ahead of time because they're already going to be in there documenting the rest of their day anyway. So there's becomes a lot of questions that you have to answer to figure out when to take that time off.
Okay, thank you.
So do we need to maybe indicate that on that button, or it have an informational thing or something that indicates that this leave request button is for full days only?
Well,
So
they can do
maybe
it for
employees
partial
don't
day,
know?
and if they want it on the calendar, you know, sometimes maybe a supervisor might want it on this calendar. They just need to know when they document their time. The employee needs to know when they document their time, they have to change it from a full day down to whatever, however many hours it was.
So what
Yeah, I mean,
happens is that on
it's
the full
defaulted to all
day,
day here.
and so when it is in documenting work on the labor page, it's putting that button up there at the very top where it says took leave all day. They have to unclick that and change their start and end time and then hit calculate hours. When they do, it's going to pose the question then whether they want to, one, document their day. So whether they want to use flex for, part of the day, or they're going to come back and document later when they get done with their appointment. There's a couple of different scenarios that happen with that. So if it's at the end of the day and they're documenting, then, they want to say partial, and then it will put in the total number of leave hours that they will need to take, and then it allows them to choose that, and it then they can put those hours down at the bottom in the calculated hours area when they're documenting. The other thing is that they document their morning, and they've unchecked that box. They put what time they came in, what time they left, because they're going to go to an appointment, but they have no idea what time they're going to be coming back. They're going to put no on there, and then it's going to ask the question, are you going to document for the remainder part of, for the remaining part of the day? Then you click yes. When you do that, then they can go ahead and click next. They've finished out their morning, but now they come back in the afternoon. When they come back in the afternoon now, and it's the end of the day and they want to document, then what they're going to be doing is they're going to be putting what time they came back in, what time they finished for the day, and then when they hit calculate hours, it's going to ask the question again, how do you want to take your leave? And then you can click partial, and when you do, it's going to calculate that up for you. And then you just fix it down at the bottom for the over and under, making sure that everything all is calculated the way that it should in those documented hours. So it gets a little tricky when we start modifying our day, but the thing to always keep in mind is that you're going to document what time you started, what time did you leave. I leave for an appointment, I come back, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to document again, what time did I come back in? What time did I leave? And then it's going to ask you those questions. So then you know how many hours I was actually gone and what I need to record to some form of leave, whether it be that they're flexing or whether it's being that they're using a sick leave category or an annual leave category. If you have submitted this request, a leave request, keep in mind you always have to uncheck that box up at the top if it's not intended to be an all-day leave. Okay?
All right. Thanks, Sheree. So when you do hit the leave request and you bring up the pop-up as I'm showing here, it is defaulted to all day, and it says all day. You can make that adjustment for specific times if you just turn the all day off. And you can see now that it populated start and end date with date and times. From there, I can go in and designate the exact time that I'm going to be off. However, it still pushes over a full day to assigning work. The only advantage to this here would be is it's populating on the calendar with those specific times. Short of that, you still have to make all those adjustments over and assigning and documenting. But again, it just really wasn't designed that way. Even though we let you change the times, by doing it this way, the system's not reading it like that. This would be purely informational at this point. Okay, so it looks like the polls, most of you are like, just leave the links as they are. We either get it and don't really need it, something new, is what I'm seeing. But, okay, cool. Thank you. We will move on to the next agenda item. And Shri, I think it is mileage.
Yeah, and I think that Randall did an awesome job of already showing us, really, whenever he documented about K numbers, about how to document for those mileage. And that's exactly the example that I was going to be using is whenever we're trying to designate certain things to K numbers. So I think that unless there are any questions that maybe you thought of after Randall showed you about documenting the fleet information per K number, is there anything that has come to mind? Okay, well, Tommy, I'm just going to let you carry on then.
Yeah, I think one of the issues, Randall, or one of the things that brought this up was we have people that are putting all the mileage on just one activity. Whatever activity they come, they put their mileage there. And the encouragement was, let's split that mileage out. If you did 3 activities. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
There was some confusion on how to, whether we need to figure out what the ending mileage was for each activity or whatever, but you don't. Just one ending mileage is fine, and then estimate your usage for each activity or each location.
And it's really, the K numbers are what's really important, because if you recall, risk management or safety management group, they are billing out for property damage. They bill those out like to insurance companies and things like that. And so we need to make sure that we're recording the mileage then per K number, and that's where it kind of falls into place. The other thing too is as we're doing federalized activities, that federalized activity then gets charged as well, and that's what we're getting reimbursement back for per activity. And so it just is, the more that we've used MMS now, we're getting used to it, that kind of thing. The more now, let's fine tune some of those processes. It's kind of like the other expense category that we've started doing, and especially with our signal and lighting folks who use that category a lot, is that now whenever we look at results, we're able to bring in all the charges when it comes to our material usage and what it's costing us. So it's just narrowing down some of those things that, since we've been using MMS, that now we can fine tune it to then have a little more accurate data than just the activity and what we're doing when it comes to performance. Any questions about any of that? Okay. Well, if there's no questions then about the mileage part of it and how we split that out, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Tommy.
Okay, and I mentioned earlier, the ladder license and leave piece of this was the MMS Phase 2 project, and of the ladder license and leave, we just finished and deployed the new license and training module, and that's the last of the 3 pieces. I'll go back out. So you have your career ladder, you have your training piece, and then you have your leave balances. Career ladders, it's been out for a little bit. If you're in one of those job title series, maybe you've used that process or not already. But specifically, license and training just went out. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of that if you've not had a chance to go out there and see it yet. I'm in as myself, so I get to see an administrator statewide, so I'm seeing everything across the state. But our first tab across the top is the driver's license piece. And there's a couple quick pick boxes. So this depends on who you are, what your title is. Just if you're just a intermediate or senior maintenance worker, you're only going to see yourself. If you're assistant supervisor, you'll see yourself and everybody in your org. Superintendent, you'll see everybody in your orgs, and so on. So it matters what you see depending on what your job title is and if anybody's reporting to you. So a couple quick check boxes. I can check the expires within 60 days. That is colored, shaded a darker blue, it looks like. And that'll default and bring everybody in that has a license set to expire in the next 60 days. Give you guys a big picture, expand the list. I also can do the same thing, or you can also do the same thing with expired. I can show anybody that's already has a license beyond an expiration date. There's some customized columns here too, just depending upon, if they make sense to you or if there's a need for it. So driver's license, issue state. So we can actually pull that column up out of our customized columns and drop it in our grid. And that shows us that all of these licenses that are from Missouri. We'll turn that one off and we'll bring the full list back. Kind of scroll down through there. Yeah, looks like everyone, at least for the first 100, are all Missouri issued driver's license. But that could be helpful depending on what you're looking at. The next tab across the top here is professional license. And there's lots of different things you'll see here as we look through it. You've got a CPA certification, you've got a PE certification, you got some type of structural bridge related professional license. So all of that, same kind of checkbox for expired, expires within 60 days, all kinds of the same functionality, I should say, for professional license. The one thing that we don't have working just yet is the herbicide license. We're actually working with the Department of Agriculture to bring those in, and we're getting really close. I think we'll have it in July. They just were running a little bit behind getting us the data file. And Randall, I'll let you explain just how this is going to get set up and why we're doing it this way real quick.
Sure. So the first time that you come in to look at that license, what you have to do is you have to enter your license number, which comes on the card that you get for when you pass your herbicide test and they mail you that. You enter your license number and the expiration date and search, and then it's going to populate that information in the bottom. You certify that that's you and save it, and then you don't have to do it again. It's there for all the time. The reason you have to do that is because Department of Ag doesn't have our employee ID information, all that stuff. They just have like a name, and there's several John Smiths that work at MoDOT, so we have to figure out how to link those two together. So that's the only manual process of it, and you should just have to do it one time. So once again, enter your license number, expiration date that's on the card, click search, certify that it's you, and save it, and you're good to go.
Any questions regarding that?
Once again, that's not quite ready yet. Even though you see that button, if you do the search, you're not going to find anything because we don't have those records from Department of Agriculture just yet.
It is looking like we're going to get them next month, though, in July. But we'll see. We'll communicate it out. All right. Last tab is
Tommy. Real quick, that if they find something that's not quite accurate on one of these training records or the license records, who should they be contacting then?
Well, you're going to contact your local HR, and it may ultimately end up with central office HR, but start there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so that last tab is your training courses, and this is a full transcript of everything that you've taken throughout your history at MoDOT. I know there was a lot of concern and fear and a lot of printing of transcripts taking place over the past couple months and ink toner and all that. But MMS has it. We got a file. We got the final file from mo.u. As soon as movers learn, which is that's the name of the new software that we're going to use when it comes online from movers, we'll start getting that transcript information as well. So this will be your one-stop shop for your training transcripts and stuff. And this is everything that you've taken, not just based on your job title or those required safety. This is your full transcript from the beginning. So it's all here. Again, you have some customized columns. One of the cool columns on this, especially if you're in the supervisory role where you have to have so many credit hours per year, there's a FY24 credit hours. You can drop that in up here. And what that does is that totals up the total hours that you've had for the fiscal year, which would be our training requirement year as supervisors. So this is pretty handy. You don't got to get the calculator out and see how many hours you got. And if you don't want it, or if you're done with it, you can just drop it back off your grid if you don't want it there all the time. Drag it and drop it. Anything, Sri, Randall, we want to talk about here on this? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's going to come in.
Yeah, just that most people on this call won't have all that district, division, org, all that stuff. It's just going to populate yours or all the employees within your org.
Yeah, good point. This will be a more realistic approach. Come in here as a building supervisor. I've got Belton pulled up. This is kind of what you'd see. You got a list of employees. You can use your filter button right here. You go through and like I'm wondering, okay, what's Mr. Penning looking like? I can filter there. It'll bring up all of his trainings. And you can see how they're kind of grouped together. He's had gear up for tractor mower once in April of 21. He did it again in May of 22. And so for the most part, they're putting these together by course numbers. And is kind of how this grid gets sorted by default. You can change that sort order by just clicking on the column heads. All I got to do is go back into my employee filter. I can put everybody back in by select all, or I can look for the next employee. If you want to filter it down, there's filters and everything. I want to go in here and see who all went to the 2023 fall maintenance meeting. Did everybody get their credit? Well, looks like just the one person, unless I didn't get this. Yeah. So come back in here. I can select all, put that back in.
So I
Let's
have
see.
something to add
Uh-huh.
to this when it comes to training records. So this has happened a couple of times. Once at a superintendent level, another one at a supervisor level. So what we have seen is that we had a superintendent that was looking at some training records and noticed that, wait a minute, I have people that are from another org within my area. Same thing with the supervisor. Supervisor was looking at some training records, realized that, wait a minute, I have some GS people in my org as well. What's going on here? What happens is that it goes by engage. And so it is, if there is a transition that is happening, even though an ESMT might have been done, depending on when all of this is happening through HR and all of that, there will be some overlap. It does eventually get worked out, but you do want to follow up that if you see that it is still there after a few days, that you do want to follow up with HR on that to just make sure that all of that is in line with what needs to happen. That you all of a sudden then notice about 3 days later, oh, I do have everyone that is I'm supposed to be seeing just within my org. So it can be that a supervisor is transferred. It could be that an employee has transferred. And it's just those overlaps that are happening within those individuals' records. It's going to bring in their previous org. So it could be that maybe you have 3 different orgs listed in addition to your own. It is that usually there is that transition that's happening.
All right, thanks, Cherie. All right, we've got a couple minutes left. We're going to finish up here with a brief overview of our observations I have pulled up here and a message from Becky Amarod. So Randall, take it away, please.
Yeah, just real quickly. Basically, observations, good catches, near misses have been set up for a long time. They were designed to be able to share information back and forth of things that you're seeing in the field and that will help other people be safe. It's really there to improve the safety culture. It was not designed for bonus. However, if you do those, you're going to get bonus points on your overall safety score. So the main thing to remember on that, Tommy, if you don't mind, if you click on like near miss there to bring one up, if you click at the bottom, there is a little message that says submit without observer name and org. And there's a note that says you will not get credit. If you select that, you do not get credit for that on your safety score. Reason being, it doesn't collect the name and org of the person, so we don't know who to give it credit to. So if you choose, for whatever reason, to not do that, not submit your name or org, you're not going to get credit. But just keep in mind, those are designed really to improve the safety culture, not necessarily just for bonus points. However, you do get bonus points for it.
Okay,
Anything
thank you,
else?
Randall.
Yep.
Real quick, we'll open it up. Was there any questions, comments, or concerns anybody had before we let you go? Okay, Courtney, you get a gold star, man, for speaking up today. Appreciate you.
Courtney.
My pleasure.
All right, you guys stay safe out there.
See you next month.